Hello, everybody. Good morning. It's so great to see you. We are about ready to get started. It's 11:30 on the dot. First, thank you all for being here for the last breakout session before we go into a keynote, and then we close out the conference. I'm so thrilled to have you all here with us today. It's so great to be able to get this time. We've got such rich content to be able to go through. We're here in Sun River 2 years after we expected to be here for the Rural Tourism Conference, and we have an hour to talk about rural strategies. And it's not enough. It's never enough to just get an hour. There's so much deep content that we could go into. This is not a beginning of a conversation. This is an invitation to bring a chair, to have these discussions about rural priorities and strategies and best practices that we can all grow and share together, so we're not reinventing the wheel and working together in a single community. During our time together, you've heard quite a number of different programs that were mentioned: a rural tourism studio, destination management studio, destination ready, all of these different programs. And with great intention and investment that go into that program, that's not really the secret sauce that makes the difference for all of these community-based programs. Spoiler alert, it's not us at Travel Oregon, it's you. You are the many power of convening and the folks that are making things happen on the ground that are representing your rural communities. You want to decide what the direction of your destination looks like and how you move forward and take that ownership and carry it forward. And all of you could probably be on this panel sharing some of the highlights of the work that you've done, whether you're in Albany, whether you are in Ontario, Mackenzie, oh my gosh, Lincoln City, everybody that's here. There's so much rich knowledge that's just in the room, and we're excited to just get a drop in the bucket of some of that knowledge pulled out for today's session. Since we're gonna be doing a little bit of movement, since I know we're going right into lunch after this, if you are part of any of these labels, please stand up for me. If you are a participant in a rural tourism studio, a destination management studio, a culinary and ag studio, outdoor recreation, bike tourism studio, if you are one of those communities, please stand up for me and stay standing for me. If you are a destination ready awardee, either 1.0 or 2.0, please stand up for me. If you are part of a outdoor recreation network, a South Coast Tourism Network, Destination Management Network for the North Coast, please stand up. If you are a rare placement, former alumni, if you are a supervisor in an organization that has hosted a rare, please stand up for me. And lastly, if you are a Ford Institute Leadership Program graduate of a rural community, please stand up. It's the majority of the room. Thank you so much for your time and engaging in these programs. Thank you for being here and for your time investment. Before we get started, let me take just one little step back. For those of you that I haven't had a chance to meet yet, my name is Alexa. I work on the Destination Development team as our Director of Community-Based Programs within Travel Oregon. But for me, my entire life has really been focused on rural. Commissioner Youngblood issued a challenge to many of you to talk to Travel Oregon staff about their why. And for me, it has always been rural. Having had the opportunity to go through the Resource Assistance for Rural Environments program, then jumping to rural development initiatives, and now having the opportunity to take over the Rural Tourism Studio as part of the Travel Oregon family. Rural is in our blood. And for all of those that are making your way in, please come join seats. If you have a seat open, please raise a number of fingers. Oh, awesome. Thank you all. Travel Oregon is so focused on community-based programming because that's where we can make the most impact. It's about you taking the ownership and defining your own direction, and we have the opportunity to support and elevate that going forward. Because at the core, rural is about community. It's about our relationships and our networks. It's our family. It's our home. For me specifically, it's the Southern Oregon coast. I'm from a very small town of 2,000 people, 2 stoplights. My family's a logging and fishing family that's gone into food and recreation. So rural is absolutely in my blood. Rural is complex at the same time. What solutions work for urban do not work for rural. And we need to have customized solutions that really adapt to the rural communities that are facing their own individual situations with different players in the room, with different stakeholders. And the last piece is that rural is resilient. Rural gets things done. When you look around at the communities and the networks and the social fabric that we've created, there is so much impact of what happens in rural. And we're gonna focus and hear so many success stories and projects and best practices from those folks here today. It's such an honor to be able to share this table and to be able to talk with you going forward about how we can define what rural looks like in Oregon going forward. So I appreciate your time. Let's go ahead and start with some introductions of our panel. Let's start over with Kaylin.
Good morning, everyone. Kaylin Lane, Executive Director of the newly formed Oregon Frontier Chamber of Commerce. I'm so humbled to be here today. Regional collaboration.
Perfect. Liz?
So I'm Liz Groener. I'm a program coordinator with the Resource Assistance for Rural Environments program, and I'll be talking about building on-the-ground capacity in rural communities through passionate and energized young professionals.
Hi, I'm Emily Reed. I'm with the Columbia Gorge Tourism Alliance. I'm the network director, and I'll be talking about how you take the big picture strategy and turning it into getting things done.
Excellent. I'm Sean Irvine. I'm the Economic Development Director for the City of Independence. I'm going to be talking about how we use our vision and express our vision to really get people on board and kind of understanding where we're going and rooting for us and helping us.
Perfect. So we only have an hour together, and we are 5 minutes in. Let's go ahead and get started with some of the content. Sean, we're going to start with you.
Excellent. All right. I probably should stand. All right.
It's hard to see otherwise if you're in the audience.
Excellent. I always like to start by winging it. I'm going to start my timer so I know what I'm doing here. All right. So appreciate the opportunity to be here with everybody. I want to talk a little bit about how we approach our work in Independence. First, I want to give a little background about our community. A lot of places do economic development, but they tend to focus on, a few key areas. And largely with economic development, they focus on recruiting trade and sector industry. We do that too, but we really like to take a little bit of a different approach. We really take a more holistic approach. We see the big picture of economic development. That's livability and quality of life. That's access to a regional workforce. That's having a proud and empowered citizenry, equitable economic and social opportunities, accessible and efficient government, and particularly a revitalized downtown and waterfront. We embrace change and believe that anything is possible. We're willing to take risks, and we embrace collaborative opportunities because we know that innovation doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's about the big picture, getting everything and everyone aligned for us, because that engagement creates leverage, which is really what makes all these projects go. And particularly our entire community is led by these values of being open, approachable, grounded, collaborative. We get farmers, workers, business leaders, outside organizations, all working together to promote growth in our community. And our goal is to make sure that everybody comes along and everybody shares in the prosperity that we're trying to create. So how do we go about doing this? It starts for us with a vision. We go out and get everybody in our community involved and say, where do you think we need to go? What do you think we need to be doing? And from there, we set that vision, that North Star to say, this is where we're going. This is what we're trying to do. For us, it's about becoming a vibrant, full-service rural community with an active and thriving downtown that's the hub of our community. With that vision in mind, that becomes the lens that we see everything through, that we analyze all of our projects through. If we're going to do something, how is this going to help us bring people downtown? How is this going to help us activate our downtown? But we also don't just tell people about what we're doing. We tell them why we're doing it. We connect our vision to our projects. When we're starting a project, when we're in the middle of a project, when we're celebrating the completion of a project, we are relating it to our vision. We are doing this project because it's going to bring people to our downtown. It's going to make our downtown a more active and vibrant community. It's going to help build that vibrancy of our downtown, which will grow throughout the community and achieve our vision that our population has set. Because when you think about it, if you can't explain why a project matters, maybe it actually doesn't matter all that much. The other thing we do that I think is really important is we build a story. The ongoing story of how our community is trying to achieve this vision that we have set. We're all doing stuff, we're all succeeding in it. We put it into a narrative about how we are taking steps towards achieving this vision. It creates this sense of success. Our vision, the community set this vision for creating a thriving downtown. Cities can't create businesses, but what we can do is build infrastructure. So, we did things like a streetscape project with the wide sidewalks and the bump outs. We installed historic style street lights. This inspired business owners to improve their historic facades. All of these things create a more welcoming environment, make people want to come downtown. You tell that story of how it relates to your vision. I'm out of practice with public speaking. So let's see here. You know, I think people get a little too focused on metrics these days. There are a lot of very important projects that need to be done that can't be measured. Their impact cannot be measured, and placemaking is really kind of the biggest category of that for me. A lot of you probably know what placemaking is, but it's essentially people-centered approach to planning, design, and management of public spaces. You know, it's creating places for people to be, places people want to be. That can be physical, it can be a plaza, it can be a mural, it can be, you know, historic facades. It can also be events like a farmer's market, it can be a concert, it can even be a busker on, you know, on a street corner. All of these serve to set a tone, create a vibe, create a place for people to hang out, you know, create that sort of welcoming, interesting environment, which is critical to a downtown. So we do a lot of both of those, you know, the physical and the events, and we've continued to do so during COVID. We wanted to support our local art gallery during COVID because they were really struggling, and their business formation didn't allow them to get any COVID grants. So we contracted them to paint banners for our historic style streetlights downtown, you know, create a nice, you know, beautiful art within the downtown. You know, winter's tough in any year. It's dark, it's rainy, it's cold, nobody wants to go outside. In COVID, it was particularly tough. So what can we do about that? We strung cafe lights over the sidewalks on Main Street to create this nice, well-lit pedestrian environment that's welcoming on a cold, dark night. We also created the Glow holiday light display in our downtown amphitheater, which is located right downtown. So you've got these beautiful light structures, and we invited people to come down and see them. We created a craft market that happened every Saturday during December, right there in the plaza with the holiday light display. And we promoted it through a social media with a selfie competition, you know, asking people to take selfies with the light displays. We got 62 people who did that, who participated in that. You know, but it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be super expensive. We're working with the Willamette River Trail group to install prototype kayak lockers on the riverfront in our downtown. This will allow paddlers to lock up their gear and go up into the downtown and check it out, spend some money, you really kind of feel secure to be able to spend a little bit of time. But the reality is, even if they never get used, they still are a very visible, tangible statement that our community cares about river recreation, that we care about paddlers, and that's placemaking. And so, of course, you know, why do we do these things? You know, it's because we have this vision of we want to make downtown this welcoming, walkable, enjoyable place. When even if you're driving through downtown Independence in the dark of winter, you see those cafe lights, you see the holiday light show and go, wow, this place is happening. There's things going on. I should come down there. I should go eat in a restaurant. I should go check these things out. We do a lot of stuff. We can't do it all ourselves. We got a great team, but we're one deep. So we work with a lot of partners. You know, if you have a solid idea of your vision, where you're going, what you're trying to do, you can get out there and find partners whose vision aligns with your own, and then you can work together to achieve something that is a win for both of you. We are a great agricultural region. We got a lot of things grown there, great opportunity for food-based businesses. We helped our downtown co-working space create a shared use commercial kitchen that food entrepreneurs can rent by the hour to prototype recipes to start new businesses. They also created a made in Polk County marketplace. So, you know, products that are made in Polk County are sold there. People who make products in the kitchen can sell it there. That got going, and Rural Development Initiative said, hey, we're looking for a spot to do Spanish language food entrepreneur classes. And we said, come on down, man, this is the place. We'll help you with outreach. They wanted a cohort of 10 people. They ended up with a cohort of 20, and then an additional 20 people on the wait list. You know, so we're moving into, you know, same partners doing business to business sales, you know, getting local food product businesses selling product to other local businesses. So they're not spending money outside of the area. And then, of course, our Polk County Tourism Alliance created the Great Oaks Food Trail. You've got 45 to 50 local food and farm experiences and businesses. What a great resource to plug into this food entrepreneurship system that we are creating, this ecosystem. So, you know, it all kind of fits together, but you got to be out there looking for folks who align with your mission. And how do you find these partners? The bottom line is you're out there telling your story. You're saying, hey, we've got this vision. Here's these things that we're doing, the way we're working towards achievement of our vision. You got to be out there telling your story to people. We're all here. This is tourism marketing. We're marketing for tourism. This is about partner marketing. This is about going out and talking to people and promoting yourself and the amazing things that you're doing so that somebody sees it, gets excited about it, roots for you, and figures out how they can fit in with your initiatives. Same goes for funders. We regularly invite staff and elected officials from regional, state, and federal organizations and agencies to come to Independence, and we give them a tour. We take them around, show them everything that's going on, talk up everything that's happening. We do sometimes we do beer summits. We just invite everybody to the pub, buy everybody beer, and just chat about what we're doing, what we got coming. We learn about what they're doing, what they got coming. We always say we're feeding them the Kool-Aid. Just tell them about how all the great things going on and all the great stuff that we can get done, because we're telling that story, that narrative of how we're achieving this community vision that has been set. And it is great because when the time comes that we have an ask, they know us, they believe in us, they're rooting for us, they want to help us, and it makes life a whole lot easier. So something else that we do, I think that's really important, is we don't just do one thing. We leverage and connect everything. If we know we have a successful project that's going to be happening, we immediately ask, what else can we do with this? So during COVID, we ran some drive-in movies on a soccer field at the edge of town. Okay, that's cool, but our goal is to support the downtown. How do we do that? Well, we said, okay, if you show up to the drive-in movie with a receipt from a local business from that day, you get entered into a raffle for a room at the Independence Hotel. Just a great little way to encourage people to shop local. 100 plus vehicles came to every movie, and most of them had a receipt from a local business from that day. We've got a lot of bike events going on this coming summer. That's awesome in and of itself. What else can we do with that? So we're developing swag and brochures and other things to put in the registration packets so they know what else there is to do in the area and hopefully come back, because they'll enjoy their experience. A lot of communities did COVID grants. We did too, but we wanted to figure out how to leverage that more, create more private spending. So we created our own lottery scratch-its. If you went to a participating business and made a purchase, you got a lottery scratch-it. They were all winners. You won $1, $5, $10, $25, and then you could use that lottery scratch-it, good as cash, at any other participating business on a subsequent purchase. We for every dollar the city invested in that, we leveraged $5 of private spending. So great exponential impact there. So the other thing we do is we think about the big picture. You've got this vision, and it's easy to kind of just do a bunch of random projects, but it's better to take these projects and leverage them, build them. One builds into another, builds off of another, because you can have a bunch of individual things that are great, but if you fit them all together, it becomes like chainmail or like a tapestry, where it becomes something greater than the individual parts. And telling your story is a way to express that, to make people see how it all fits together, and more importantly, that you're going somewhere. We're not just doing a bunch of random projects. We're doing this and this and this, which is leading us here. Our downtown placemaking, we did the streetscape. We built a library downtown. We did the historic building facades, an amphitheater, riverfront trails, a riverfront dog park. These are all kind of a bunch of random, seemingly unrelated projects, but they are unified by this idea of making the downtown a welcoming, walkable, inviting place. And in many cases, they bring people downtown. The amphitheater and the trails, you can use parks for economic development. And our library brings 100,000 people through its doors every year. It's located right downtown for a reason. So another example of how we try to leverage is with our bike tourism. We've got a lot of good existing assets in terms of low traffic roads and stuff. So we said, let's try to become a hub for bike tourism. So first thing, let's look at the infrastructure. We built a few repair stations in the downtown. They're practical, they're also placemaking. There's statements that we care about bikes. There was nowhere to camp in the middle of the Willamette Valley Scenic Bikeway, so we built a biker boater campground in our downtown riverfront park. That way we now have people staying in our downtown, eating in the restaurants, drinking in the pubs, spending money downtown. A lot of folks we noticed were stopping at the Main Street restrooms that we have. So we put a drinking fountain and a water bottle fill station there so they could fill their water bottles. We promoted the bike-friendly business program, so when people are riding their bikes through town, they see these bike-friendly business signs. And the whole time we're out there talking to people, Travel Oregon, Cycle Oregon, all these folks about what we're doing to embrace bicycling, the vitality effort, our vision for the community. And they start saying, wow, you've got this amphitheater, the riverfront, this cool downtown, you're doing all this cool stuff with bikes. Maybe we should bring our events here. Maybe we should, bring some of our activities here. And it was like, yeah, let's do that. We also just recently created bikeindy.com, which is a curated series of bike routes in the area, and then which also includes a quarterly Drop the Hammer events. We had 90 people show up in January for a bike ride. That was kind of mind-blowing. But the cool part is, we recently, so in 2019 we had a hotel open in the downtown. They embraced our narrative about bike tourism and built the most bike-friendly hotel in the country. And not only that, the GM is out there making sales calls, calling on bike companies saying, hey, you should come to Independence for a corporate retreat because it's this cool town, we're this bike-friendly hotel. They have done all of this bike-friendly infrastructure. They've got this Bike Indy program. We could hook you up with some routes for a ride. He's literally out there telling our story for us. So final thoughts, it's easy to get caught up in planning, metrics, goals, all that kind of stuff. Understand your vision, why you're doing what you do, figure out your assets, leverage your assets, and get started doing something. Don't overthink it, just get started doing stuff. And track your metrics where you can, but I believe we're successful because we are not slaves to metrics. It's more about the storytelling. Think anecdotes that you can throw into a story. The number of people visiting the library, number of people at events, the money spent for the Scratch It program, things like that. And scale projects appropriately to your community. Start small. A bench, downtown lighting, it may not seem like a big thing, but if it advances your vision, it's a win. And it's something to celebrate and something to build off and something to add into your story and your narrative of how you are succeeding, as you move towards this vision. And then you got to be willing to take calculated risks. This is also where storytelling is extremely valuable. The hotel project never would have happened without what came before. I could have gone to council and said, hey, we got this great hotel project. The city's going to have to invest $6 million. I know it's about a quarter of the city's annual operating budget, but don't worry, it's going to be awesome. Instead, hey, in 1996, the community got together, set a vision, set a plan. And in that plan was the redevelopment of the Valley Concrete site. 2008, we got 1,000 people involved in the Vision 2020 process. In that plan was the redevelopment of the Valley Concrete site with a mix of commercial and residential uses, including a hotel. Our downtown has been progressing, in all of these ways, and now this hotel is the next logical step to get us to that next level. It really just helps with that narrative. And then lastly, I always come to conferences looking for the elusive silver bullet that if I just do this one thing, everything will be okay. The good news is there is a silver bullet. The bad news is that silver bullet is sustained effort over a long period of time in service of a vision. We've been doing this 25 years. I've been doing it 16. We've seen early success and it's grown, but it takes time and consistent effort. But I can say, if you have a vision, if you put in the effort consistently over time and are thoughtful about how you link your projects together and how you talk about your vision and your story and your projects, you will get there. So carry on and tell good stories.
Hi. Okay, so I wanted to take off from where Sean left off. And really, honestly, the structure of my presentation is very similar to what Sean just went through, which is starting with a vision. Our vision is optimizing the positive impacts of the visitor economy to enhance communities and protect the region. But I wanted to talk to you about how we take this vision, which, by the way, is inherently kind of has tension in it because enhancing the communities can be antithetical to protecting the region at times. So there's something there that we have to work with at all times. But I wanted to talk with you about how we take this into actually getting things done, which is very similar to what Sean was talking about with their vision. I'm going to talk to you today about kind of the process that we use with our network and also give you some case studies and learnings from that. But before I get there, I'd like to start with a little introduction of the Gorge and kind of some of the issues that we're dealing with. We are rural, but we're very close to the metro area, and so we have different issues where we have a number of folks coming in, visiting us, having a different kind of impact that we're having to navigate. So I wanted to start with the video.
What I love about the Gorge is the landscape is unlike any place else. Yet within this landscape are communities that really have forged their own identities.
For me, it was that incredible dripping wet forest and then true desert, and to have that all in one little national scenic area is pretty spectacular.
You're doing ordinary, everyday things, and you have this spectacular view. You're looking at Mount Hood and Mount Adams.
We're 40 minutes from an international airport, but you can come out and be in wilderness in a very short amount of time.
We are getting 30 to 40,000 people moving into the Portland metropolitan area every year. And certain areas of the Gorge are feeling more impact than others. Essentially, 80% of the people who visit the Gorge visit 20% of the places. And so we have to think about how do we flip that model? Because the Gorge is not just the waterfall area.
The National Scenic Area is 2 states and 6 counties. So when you're trying to do something collectively, it's really challenging because it's all completely different jurisdictions.
And so that's really why we reached out to Travel Oregon, because we knew that they had the ability to help us see the bigger picture. And we knew if we could do it right, it was going to conserve lands, it was going to enhance recreation, and it was going to support the communities.
Okay, great. So with the help of Travel Oregon, it's a beautiful video. With the help of Travel Oregon, then we were able to create and launch a network called the Columbia Gorge Tourism Alliance. And it's a little bit different from a traditional tourism organization group network in that we bring in non-traditional partners like the Forest Service, the economic development, ODOT, the tribes, in addition to our DMOs and chambers and guides and traditional hotels and such. So we have a wide variety of perspectives. We also don't have our own funding, if you will. We don't have anything to work with except for the network. So that's a little bit different as well. So how do we organize all of these very different perspectives, including the geographies and the perspectives that they are representing, into getting something done? So I'm going to walk you through our process and just really kind of get into the nuts and bolts. Hopefully you'll find it interesting, but this is what we do every year. We meet in November when the big visitor season has wound down, and we all get into one room, Zoom room as it were, in the last couple of years, and we have coffee, say hi, and then we get to work. We divide into different groups within the room, different corners, based on different topics. So these are our action areas. So car-free, culinary ag, welcomeability, which is our DEI, outdoor rec, visitor dispersal, and culture. And they go into these corners and they take the issues of that action and they really delve into what's the issue, what's already been done, what needs to be done next, and they just have a great big brainstorming session, building off of each other, putting all of the ideas on the wall. Anything goes, no wrong ideas, just really what can we do? And then at a certain point in the day, they stop and look at those ideas, each group, and they pick the top 3. What are the next most exciting, most doable things that we can get done right then? And so they flesh that out a bit, and then they bring those 3 to the entire network, and they describe them. And then so we basically have 18 to 20 ideas at that point. And then the whole network then ranks those so that we know what's the most, we could get them all done. It's not about which doesn't get done, but we can see what's the most important to the network so that we can put resources and funding and such to that. But then we're not done there. We then take that list and we go through a checklist that we've developed. And for ourselves, because we're by state, it's a little bit different from what you might have in a town, but it has to fit our vision, because everything needs to build towards that goal and that vision that we're doing. So we have a 15-year vision in addition to our mission. So it has to address an impact area, which it should if it came from the group. It needs the network to bring it together. It can't just be something that one organization can go and do, because that's great, they can go do that. But what the power of the network is really bringing a bunch of different perspectives and resources together. And so that's what we look for there. Ideally, it's by state because it's the Gorge. And then because we're a volunteer network, it needs somebody to step up and take a little bit of control of this. And also, we can't be doing things that can't be fundable. I mean, a lot of things that we do don't even need funding, but you have to look at that factor as well. So we take this, and then we have a list of things that we do each year. So this isn't pretty, but it is what we use. So for each action area, we have a couple of different projects that we have set out for the year. So each of these little squares below is a different project. So that's our goal for the year, and then we click our fingers and it's done. So I did want to talk you through kind of the ways that we could get these things done, but I did want to start with an analogy, because this analogy is the best one that I have had for how we get things done in the network. How many of you have heard of stone soup? Can you raise your hand? Okay, so it's a fable where a traveler comes into a small town, he's hungry, he wants food, and of course the villagers are like, yeah, I'm going to give you food, but he has a pot, and so he takes the soup pot and he puts water in it and a stone, and he heats it up, and then a few people come over curious, and they say, what are you doing? He's like, I'm making stone soup, it's almost done, I just need a carrot. So the first person goes off and get a carrot. The next person says, it's almost done, I need a potato. They go to potato. Eventually, he has a full soup that feeds the entire village, and he gets to feed as well. So this idea of everybody putting in just a little bit in order to make something bigger for the whole, that is the analogy that I think is the best example for getting things done on this level. Okay, so I wanted to walk you through a few of our soups and give you some lessons that we found along the way. Okay, so the first one is, first lesson would be, and again, I know, I look out and I know when most of you have done projects like this is not going to be new, but I thought I would share our learnings anyway, and hopefully something will come from it. So the first one is start small. You need a win. You need something tangible. People don't like to meet just to meet. They want to see things progress, and move ahead. So a brochure is the first thing that came out of our Ready, Set, Gorge project, which was created in order to address the issues of visitors coming into the gorge, going on hikes that didn't necessarily have never been on a trail before. So this is basic 101 information. Don't wear flip-flops. Don't bring fireworks. Please don't burn down our forests. So a simple brochure. But then the lesson number 2 is build on that. So similar to what Sean was saying, build on that. A couple of years later, we added an interactive map that had all of the lands in our area. We have 20 different land agencies that have different trails and parks and such in our area. So this pulled them all together to show what was open and what was closed. And we agreed as a region to keep this updated, which was super important during COVID when everyone wanted to come out to the gorge, and most things weren't open, or some were and some weren't. So this was a vital piece of information. And then building on that, that group of land managers kept meeting through COVID because we were in a unique situation in the gorge, well, similar to the North Coast, where we had a lot of folks coming out, but we had 2 different states coordinating our opening messages. We didn't want one county to say, come on out, while the other one was saying, whoa, 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 stay away. So we were able to meet together and create this messaging system where we all agreed to speak from the messages that we created for each phase, and then agree what phase we were in. So my lesson number 3 is blatantly steal, because this is from the North Coast. I did ask, but we took their model and we just created, we were able to tweak it for ourselves, but it was great to be able to see what they had already done, use it, and quickly run with that. I would also say that this particular program it doesn't matter who's leading any of these projects. Like, we have different people leading and doing things and pulling together different groups of people in our network. So it doesn't matter what form it's in, as long as we're getting these things done. The next thing was that same group kept meeting, and they found that at a certain point that everybody was having trash issues all at the same time. So this is during COVID, we're not out and about, but we were able to do a simple script, send it out to the network, send it out to this group. Each person took their cell phone, filmed themselves saying the talking points in their particular area of the gorge. And we were able to edit this together into a really quick video that we were able to then all share out within 2 days. So we had a coordinated messaging and video that everybody shared all together. So this is the kind of thing that really works on the fly. And this is the lesson number 4 here is, go off plan. Like, if you have that strong mission and you know what you're trying to do as you can be spontaneous and do things off the cuff that you didn't have planned. It wasn't one of the little boxes we had, but it solved the issues that we needed. And that's the kind of flexibility you have if you have a strong vision. My fifth one is use a recipe. You don't have to create things from scratch. Travel Oregon has amazing templates, and the food trails are the perfect example of this. They have all the tools and support that you need. You don't have to make it on your own, which is wonderful. And then you can also throw in your own spices and change it a little bit. This is something that we did for the East Gorge Food Trail, which is accessibility. A disabilities expert came in and took a few of our food trail participants and partners and had site visits. And then from this, we're pulling together a video, a checklist, and we have a really concrete way for other businesses to get up to speed with accessibility and be more welcoming. So that was wonderful, and also with Travel Oregon support, which is wonderful. Okay, and then don't be afraid to do the big, meaty things that may never get done, may never see an end, may never have a big, like, yay, we did that, tie it up with a bow. Transportation in a rural area is very difficult. So this is a project that we created, Gorge Pass, which is an annual pass that allows you to hop on and hop off any of the 4 different transit agencies in the gorge. So in a sense, this one little pass allows the individual providers to become a system, and the visitor doesn't need to know who has what. They just hop on and hop off. But I tell you, getting people out of their cars in rural is one of the hardest things I've ever done. It's as you know, if you're from rural, you love your car. It gets you everywhere. And so this is one of those projects that feels like it will never end, but it's super important, super valuable, and worth the effort. And then finally, building off of this is we developed a Gorge Equity Fund to go with the Gorge Pass. $1 of every pass sale goes to the Equity Fund. And this then goes to support outdoor equity organizations that are already getting folks out into the wilderness who don't necessarily have traditionally felt welcome. Also search and rescue and low income. So love this program. And my main takeaway here is look for ways to blend those silos. More and more of our projects are doing that, are blending the different action teams. So this one is outdoor rec, DEI, and of course transportation. And so we're looking for ways to build and blend. And anymore, you don't know which corner of the room to sit in to do the brainstorming. But that's a valuable thing. So there is a lot more detail here. It was very hard to boil it down for you. If you want to ask me about any of the questions between process or of any of our projects, I would be happy to talk to you later. Thank you.
Hey everybody, I'm going to break the mold. It feels too formal to go behind the podium, so thanks for hanging with me for the switch up.
Can I say one more thing? I'm sorry, just one more thing. So Liz's amazing RARE program, strategic doing, is an example of the way that we do our process, and RARE, our they have a great program, so please get in touch with Titus or Liz after this too, if you're interested in that process. Thank you.
Thanks for the promotion before I get going. No pressure. Okay, so just as a reminder, I'm Liz Groener. I'm a program coordinator with the Resource Assistance for Rural Environments program. And what we do, just as a refresher of what my strength that I mentioned, is building on-the-ground capacity in rural communities through energized and passionate young professionals. And so my journey in developing this strength began in January of 2017, back when I found out about the RARE program. And so I found out about the program through a friend of a friend. And before I get too into my story, I just want to touch on what is the RARE program for folks that don't know. And so the Resource Assistance for Rural Environments AmeriCorps program works to increase the capacity of rural communities to improve their economic, social, and environmental conditions through the assistance of trained graduate-level participants who live and work in the communities for 11-month terms of service. So our big buckets are food systems, community and economic development, and environmental and sustainability planning. So flipping back to my story, I'm in my senior year of undergrad and I find out about the RARE program. I do a little research and I'm in, like all eggs in that basket, did not apply to anything else. And luckily I got into the program, and next came the start of the matching process. So I was interviewing with different host organizations. And it's so funny reflecting now because I remember filling out my member application and seeing the different project areas that you could check and seeing tourism and kind of like scoffing at like tourism. And I didn't check that box, but thankfully the program coordinator knew a little better at the time, thank you Titus, and sent me some of those applications anyway. So fast forward, I am matched with the Oregon Coast Visitors Association as their South Coast Destination Development Project Coordinator, a little bit of a mouthful. So my partner and I, we pack up all of our stuff, our dog, whatever fits in the Subaru Forester in the minivan, and we move from Iowa to the Southern Oregon coast. So my service area, my portion was Coos, there we go, a little slow. There it goes. Was Coos, Curry, and Coastal Douglas. So I was Reedsport down to Brookings, just for some perspective there. I swear I'm clicking it. Okay. So just for a little bit of context before I dive in. So the area had 2 different rural tourism studios that had happened before I hit the ground. And I was also like in undergrad, right, so tired of theoretical projects that I wasn't actually doing things, and I was so energized. And some of the jobs that I had, I was so tired of paper pushing, and I was just so pumped and ready to go and actually make a change in a community. So within the first couple weeks of my service, actually, Travel Oregon had the folks from Converge for Impact facilitate a conversation with a lot of South Coast stakeholders, and some of those people are in this room today, so love all of you, love seeing these faces. And so by the end of that meeting, our region was forming a tourism network, and I had eagerly volunteered to be the interim network manager. So I gathered the core team, facilitated meetings, communicated with the broader network, and was building relationships. So by the end of my first term of service, I was able to successfully hand off that position to a full-time, fully funded person, shout out to Julie Miller, who is now the network coordinator. And so the other project area that I was working in was with agritourism. So when I came into the community, they had a farm trail that consisted of 9 businesses and went from Bandon down to Port Orford. And by the end of my first term of service, we had modified that to embody more of the local food system, and we were hearing that from our stakeholders, and we moved into a 40 business Wild Rivers Coast food trail. And we were collaborating with Travel Oregon along the way to and working with their destination development team to really figure out what the template of what these were going to look like, because ours was the first one that ended up hitting the ground, and that was a really rewarding process as well. So towards the end of my first term of service, I ended up applying with the local action team to a grant for Travel Oregon, and we ended up receiving it, thank you Travel Oregon, to create a passport program to go along with our food trail. And so by the end of that second term of service, we had all the collateral in hand, the passport had been created, we had all of the support that we needed, and we were launching the product, and I was able to successfully hand off that to a local contractor that ended up getting hired and proving the value of that in the community. So some of the other areas that I was working in was an outdoor rec. I was working with water trails, drafting an action plan, engaging with the community, organizing community paddles, which I was able to then hand off to my supervisor after my terms of service. And we were also helping with developing paddle guides for the region, and I was able to hop into a photo shoot and be on the cover of the Coos River Paddle Guide. There you go. Yeah, no big deal. And I just want to say I was successful because my community was ready and supportive. My supervisor, Dave Lacey, if you don't know him, rad guy. He had my back. The whole AQUA staff team really supported me along the whole way. And I just want to highlight the value of that and why I was able to get things done. So this is my happy place, calm down slide. But not to toot my own horn, but that was a lot, right? So like a lot of wins within those 2 years. And even I think back now and I'm like, wow, I was a little crazy. Like, what was I doing? But that's the program and the opportunity allowed me and so many others who aren't necessarily qualified on paper, right? Coming out of undergrad for these mid to upper level positions. And we're able to get in and show what we're capable of and like just learn what we're able to do early on in our career, which I think is really valuable. And so that's what we do. The RARE program places the next generation of change makers and communities across the state to take on meaningful and catalytic place-based projects, all with a focus on increasing the vitality and vibrancy of the communities that we serve. And so we're housed at the University of Oregon, and because of that, we have a ton of resources that our supervisors as well as our members are able to tap into throughout the term of service. And we also have amazing partners who our supervisors and in particular our members have regular touch points with these folks and often have a direct line of communication and are able to workshop and just think about different projects and how they should be moving forward. And I have to thank Emily for this. Can you see it? Yeah, so there's a chameleon. So our members are often community chameleons. So more often than not, RARE members have the ability to move throughout communities without the baggage and history that some folks do. And so I just want to emphasize the training that we provide, like before we have these folks go into the communities, we coach them on how they should come in with open ears and be ready to listen to the community and what the community wants and not be automatically thinking, well, this is what I think you should do. Like this is a really community-minded project and program. And so let's get real about rural, right? Like Nancy can't work with Susie because 10 years ago something happened and now they hate each other. You know, that's a reality. And so sometimes our members are able to have that space where these people can air their grievances, feel heard, and you can start to develop trust and build collaboration with people who aren't necessarily working well together. And I just want to highlight that the RARE program and our members are not going to come in and solve all of the community problems that you have. But in referencing my example, what we can do is build capacity, keep the energy going, get some short wins, and really be able to transition that work into the community. And a lot of the times, fingers crossed, like we have folks that fall in love with the community and the community loves them, and our members stay on and get hired on in full-time staff capacity. And so this is a visual representation of the impact that we've had across the state. So we proudly say that we have worked in every county of the state and have worked with a wide swath of different host organizations. We've got members who have created a tater tot festival in Ontario, a disc golf course in Brookings, working on renewable energy in Lakeview, farm to school stuff in the Rogue Valley, and mountain bike festivals in the Umpqua Valley. We're really proud of how we've been able to spread across the state and spread that love. This is our cute year 28 cohort. They're awesome. Some of them are in this room. But we've been networking and talking about the importance of collaborating and partnerships this whole conference, right? And it takes capacity to collaborate and get things done in our communities. And there's a value in investing in convening. There's a value of on-the-ground support and building that trust. And that's the special role that our RARE members get to play when they come into rural Oregon. And that's why we draw in so many rock stars like Kate Harbour and Katie McFall, who just received Rising Star Awards at this conference. So I'm not sure I'm doing on time because I forgot to press play, but there's Titus. So let's get real. If you don't, come talk to me if you want to learn more. Come talk to Titus. That's a QR code that will take you to our website. And I do want to highlight that our community applications for this next upcoming service year are due April 1st. No fooling. And also, if you want to learn more, I'm volunteering them without them knowing. But raise your hand if you're a current member in the room. Okay, you can talk to them if you want to learn more about their experience in rural Oregon. Raise your hand if you've ever been a supervisor or you are one currently. Go talk to them as well. Sorry for volunteering, but.
Wow, incredible. Let's hear it for the panel so far. Well, good afternoon, friends. As mentioned earlier, my name's Kaylin Lane. I'm the Executive Director of the newly formed Oregon Frontier Chamber of Commerce, previously known as the Condon Chamber of Commerce. I have the privilege today of sharing with you some of the complexities and opportunities we experience in our frontier rural communities and the importance and value of regional collaboration and relationships. How many in this room have ever been to Condon? Oh my gosh, exciting. Or have seen the beautiful, majestic Painted Hills, one of Oregon's 7 wonders. Maybe as a young child, you took a long road trip with your grandparents and dug for fossils behind the high school in Fossil. Yes, these are where the memories are made, at our county fairs, at our local rodeos. Well, welcome to my stomping grounds. These are the communities I'm lucky enough to call home. I was raised in Condon, and after graduating from the University of Idaho, I moved to Sedona, Arizona for several years before moving back to Condon. I've been with the Chamber now 9 years. When I was hired, we had 34 members. We now serve a larger region and have over 400 proud community members, businesses, organizations that we work with. Let me put the word frontier into perspective here. There are 11 rural frontier communities in our territory, and while it's beautiful, there are extremely long drive times between them. The territory covers a wide range of 3,400 square miles with a total population of 5,100 people. So we've got communities of 140 to 650 people. When I started at the Chamber of Commerce, I saw opportunities and needs in every corner to support our businesses as well as our local communities while connecting the visitor to the experience they hope to have. The idea of reaching beyond just the Condon Chamber of Commerce was not embraced by my board of directors initially. It took a lot of work, it took a lot of collaboration, and working with people in these communities, Rufus, Fossil, Kent, Grass Valley. These little towns were not large enough to have their own Chamber of Commerce. So strategically, over the last several years, we've positioned this organization to serve this greater territory. Now, moving at the same pace of 11 communities can be pretty hard, but we've done it one relationship at a time. We're pioneering a new way to supporting our businesses, promoting and driving economic development, promoting tourism, and supporting businesses. This also includes building and nurturing relationships with city councils, county court members, economic development districts, the pastors at our local churches, the community members, and the kids in our school. Where did I go here? I'm really excited about how these valuable partnerships and these relationships are transforming our rural communities. We are truly setting a stage for what positive relationships look like and how, when we work together, we can truly get things done. I'm excited. The Oregon Main Street is actually piloting a program around our rural regional approach to supporting our downtowns and organizations. Back in June of 2021, so just a few months ago, I spoke with Sherry Stewart, coordinator for Oregon Main Street, and told her about the work that our organization was doing, from streetscaping to working with the youth to promoting businesses, doing events. And she said, well, that's great. Which hat do you wear? And I said, we wear all of these hats at our Chamber of Commerce. And that's where this idea to pilot a program around this rural regional approach to organizations working together collaboratively has taken off. And on Saturday, we applied for 2 Main Street grants on behalf of our connected communities. So excited. You see, this wouldn't have been possible without the collaboration. Our main streets have been missing out for years because we don't have the capacity to have a main street and a chamber and all of these different silos. And so it's like, well, we've got to just start working together. And it's just been incredible. Continuing our efforts to build regional capacity, we are one of only 2 organizations to have received the Business Oregon Rural Opportunities Initiatives Grant, as well as a Technical Assistance Grant. This funding is to help us expand our organization, our capacities. We are hiring local rural ambassadors in our communities of Mitchell, Spray, Fossil, Rufus, Wasco, Kent, Grass Valley. These ambassadors add even more of a local capacity and are this personal connection to the businesses, the city councils, and the county courts that one person can't provide at all times in 11 communities. We've initiated a boots-on-the-ground approach to identify the gaps. What are the needs of the entrepreneurs, the small businesses? What are the needs and wants of the communities? We're working one-on-one with these businesses and community members to hear their stories. We, as ambassadors, are being better informed and understand their needs and are delivering the assistance. We're connecting and conducting these engagement meetings in all of the communities that we serve. We understand that the times we're living in, it's not a one-size-shoe-fits-all. Rural businesses need direct technical assistance. They need mentorship and expertise. So we're working with our strategic partners, the Foundry Collective, Reinventing Rural, Oregon's SBDC network, the Eastern Oregon Visitors Association, Travel Oregon. We're connecting with our partners across the region and recognizing that these relationships truly matter. We're celebrating their successes and yearning, not stealing, because I don't like to steal, but truly we're taking what works for them and how can we put it into our communities, which every community's needs are a little bit different. So great. We're all so different. Since October of 2022, we've hosted 5 community engagement meetings to better understand the town's unique needs. We held a Rural Women's Business Summit in December with 87 attendees. We hosted 6 workshops and seminars, and between our events and the Rural Summit, we've touched over 500 small business entrepreneurs and have provided just over 100 hours of direct technical assistance to 48 small businesses. We're helping groups and volunteers to create artisans markets and craft fairs in Fossil and Mitchell. We're helping small businesses to reach customers online. We've assembled an Arlington Action Committee to help revitalize their downtown. We've encouraged creative use of the old Rufus School. Now they're doing weekly art nights, walks for the elderly. They've assembled a community garden for those members in their community that don't have the means or the property to build their own garden that's fenced, because we've got more deer in our little town than we do people. So it's these creative solutions that when you identify with the communities, what their needs are and what their wants are, you can actually truly deliver on them, one small step at a time. So basically, guys, we're everywhere, working hard to be kind while encouraging and connecting our businesses and communities with the resources that they need. We're so much stronger when we work together, and the future is bright. Our rural ambassadors are engaging small businesses like never before, and the Business Oregon funding is a critical component to reaching each and every community in this region. Our partnerships are strong, and 2022 is full of hope and opportunity. Come visit us. I'd love to see you. We have a beautiful Chamber of Commerce with over 34 local artisan makers and creators that are featured there. So it's a little shopping center in itself. I want to thank you all for your time. Truly, collaboration is key.
Perfect. So we don't want to leave you without a few takeaways to be able to highlight from this session. There's a few key dates for us to be able to cover. You've heard from a chamber, a statewide partner, a network, city economic development. There's so many resources that are sharing for a lot of this work going forward. So here's a few key things we want to highlight for you. First is that rare applications are due on April 1st, something to be mindful of. Next piece, we're going to be doing some regional gatherings around other folks that are doing this work in destination development and management. Some of that information will be coming through the pipeline soon to you. Watch out for a number of the funding opportunities. The newsletter that we push out through Travel Oregon is the absolute best way to be able to capture so much of that information all in one place. Next piece, please make sure that you're building these relationships, as everyone here on the panel highlighted. I know this can seem like something that's very simple, but that doesn't mean that it's easy. These are the foundational steps that we can all do to be able to see rural get things done, because we can make such a difference and move the needle so easily. The last piece is one that I also really want to highlight, and that's that we've been doing destination development boot camp since 2014, around there. I think Kanita was our first one. We're bringing it back, so we're going to get to be in person May 9th through 11th at the Big Knoll Event Campus in Jacksonville, Oregon. I don't want to scare you, but we opened registration on Thursday. We're 50% full now. There's 100 of you in the room. There are 30 spots left. So something to be mindful of. If you can pull out your phones for me really quickly, here's the link for registration if you're interested in participating, or feel free to write it down in your notes. But this is something that we're pushing out as well. This is our Destination Development Boot Camp. So something to be aware of if you're interested in joining and meeting all these other wonderful folks, sharing those best practices, some experiential learning opportunities. It's 12:30 right on the dot. You're so good. You're so good. So again, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you. Thank you to the panel. Awesome. Thank you again.